All good.
You guys can do that.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
We're
What's
live
up?
now. We're live to currently 0 people.
Nice.
Which is okay.
Well, we haven't shared the link yet, so how would they? How do I share it? Is there like, okay, so StreamYard should figure out how to say share this stream and have a share button within there.
Yeah. So when we go live, which we're live on LunarCRUSH, we're live on YouTube, Periscope, Facebook. It automatically publishes it out. So for everyone that just joined, we have no agenda. We're talking about everything from COVID globally to shutting down schools in Southern California to what to do with DeFi projects and what actually is backing DeFi projects to what is more 2017, Tesla or Tron in 2017? What else were we talking about?
Yeah, we were having a kick-ass conversation, and now it's going to continue for live. This is completely random. And
I got a fun one.
So
I got a fun one that I read today about Google, and Google's making moves. I don't know if I call it higher ed, but they're working on a curriculum that is focused on project management, data science, and offering certifications. Even around UX. And so they're creating these certification projects that are almost like, you could call them the type of certification that you might have received from like a junior college or a college. So I was reading a lot about that this morning, but that was kind of fascinating.
They're taking over the school, making that, well, it's a capitalistic society, right? I mean, should take over, let corporations take over the education system. Why not?
Yeah, and it's interesting because all the younger kids, at least in the U.S. here, a lot of them use Google Classroom, and so this is almost like I could see this becoming like an add-on into Google Classroom, and Google kind of getting its claws in to the way early on, versus like this being something you take later on in life even. So it's pretty interesting to see where this might go.
Well, what happens with the kids now? It's like. And I feel for a lot of the parents this fall, at least here in Southern California, now it's work from home again, and it's all of these kids going to school. It's like, man, some of these houses, some of these people, a lot of people don't have 5 computers for all the kids to be online at the same time, or they can't even stream. The Wi-Fi is terrible. It's like, how are these kids even gonna? I mean, I keep seeing all the memes of like, there was a good one yesterday of like the kids that they all changed to reconnecting at the same time. And the teacher was like, what the hell is going on? And they're messing with them. And it sucks for the one kid in there, because the one kid, like the upper left was actually just sleeping, but they were like kind of lost in the crowd before, but now they're just like sleeping in the side. I don't know. I feel for these
I had to share my computer when we were in the lockdown here in Israel. I shared my computer with my 6-year-old and my 4-year-old, so they each had their own shift, and I was doing quantum economics. So I kind of feel, that pain. But they got back to school, and now it's summer vacation, and we're going to go back into lockdown. So Israel was all very proud that we'd squashed the coronavirus, and we did. And then we reopened, and they said everybody should wear masks, and everybody was wearing them, under the chin and, under the, with the nose out. And now Sunday we had 1,000 cases in a day, which for a small country like this is kind of a big deal. And looks like we're going to go back into lockdown now.
Well.
Yeah.
And when your kids using your computer, you miss out on the Tesla short.
The Tesla short, which I missed out on, yes. When do we short Link, though? That's the question. I mean, Link has been exploding. Do you guys? I mean, has it been exploding on social media as well, or is it just? I mean,
like an hour, not even an hour ago, like a half hour ago, we posted that it had the highest alt rank, because that means that it has strong price performance and it has really strong social activity. The thing that's a huge fan of Link. Love it. Love the concept of it. Love what they're doing. I have no idea
what they do. Price
basically,
goes up.
It's like so basically, decentralized Oracle platform. They are sort of the the way that you communicate with the real world and APIs and things of that nature with smart contracts. And so if you want to use real world data,
Google mentioned them in a presentation or something like that a while back, right?
Yeah, it's like Google and Oracle and like lots of just huge, enormous enterprises. But technically speaking, you could have any API with any data could hook into Chainlink to be in use with a smart contract. So the market is just like enormous.
And the smart contracts need to run on the Link platform, or do they run on Ethereum and or Tezos?
You need Link, and it's with Ethereum typically. So
okay, so it is integrated with Ethereum.
With Ethereum, yes.
So this is always whenever I'm thinking about investing in a coin. I mean, not trading. I mean, obviously trading is just for fun. But when I'm thinking about investing in a coin, I always want to understand what does it do. So so Link basically pays the transaction fees for the Oracle, or
well, there's oracles that are part of the Chainlink platform. They're decentralized. They work with the token, and they're sort of like, think of them in between that real world data that exists in APIs out there, and then the smart contracts over on the other side. It's like if I had to draw a diagram, it's like APIs over here, oracles that are part of Link, the token, smart contracts. And so it sort of plays that middle ground. But I'd say like on the short term, love it, love what's going on. A little concerning just how over the top bullish the comments are out there. Like we're getting to that point of remember not back in the day, almost every day, XRP is going to $539. You know all those comments that are always out there. Like it's not that far, but
589. 589. I can say precisely that it will reach $589 per coin. Yes, I remember.
No, I don't even want to say it's possible Link goes there. I don't know. What I do know is that there's go to social contributors, Joe, for example, and then just click on just hover over that right column right there. So you see that the community size itself is way going up.
That's blown up.
Yeah, and that's like an all-time high the last few days.
9,186 in one day versus in March
it smashed the all-time high.
Yeah. What's crazy though, those numbers are still small. As big as that is, 10,000 people a day on social media chatting about you. It's still not. It's a tiny part of the world. However,
so 10,000 engagements. What does Bitcoin get on a regular day, or Ethereum?
It varies, but let's look at Bitcoin.
I mean, just to have not like today, but I just want to benchmark. And I'd like to see the most bullish piece, bullish tweet that anybody has written about Link. That would be fun. I want to know where people have their price targets.
A lot higher.
40 to 50,000 a day. It looks like across Bitcoin. I think
those are individuals. Those are like not the number of posts. Those are individual, actual humans, excluding bots, excluding spam.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm going slow here because I'm running I'm fighting everyone else in the other rooms doing their own live streams as well.
Yeah. I told you, man. You got to have 2 internet connections all the time. I've just upgraded my first one, and then my second. Because I just moved houses. By the way, this is my new house.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that window has a gorgeous view of all of the surrounding mountains. I'm just like completely stoked about. But I've installed my first internet connection and upgraded the router. I wrote about some of the privacy concerns I might have with them. They're now blocking websites at random without telling me why. And for some reason, pictures aren't loading across different browsers and devices, which is just totally weird on my Wi-Fi, which is supposed to be the beast of a router that they've just sold me. So the second internet company is coming in, and they're going to come in next week. And the first guy came in and said, he looked around and said, "Oh, we don't have a hole here." So they're going to plug me in a new hole. And then I'll have my my second connection again. But so
they told you they're blocking websites. What's that story like?
So it's Bezek, which is like the biggest ISP around. They do the infrastructure and service. And they sold me a new router, which has something called B Cyber, which apparently cannot be turned off under any circumstances. And they said that it will block some websites. You'll get a big notice that says that website is not allowed. And and there's no way. Basically, they're saying like, so what kind of websites? Like, just so I know. Well, they said the word she kept using on the phone was provocative. I'm like, provocative, does that mean porn? So I went to a few porn sites and they were all working fine. So, I mean, I went to a few crypto sites. I went to fucking the Pirate Bay and nothing. So I'm like wondering, what the hell are you blocking over here? Yeah. I have no idea. Such an
interesting word to use. That could be like all sorts of things. Well, that, like their choice, like could be anything they find or deem provocative.
Exactly.
My question is, who are they? Who's the deciding factor behind this? Is there like a bad guy in a chair wearing all black with a deep voice? Block this site. Like what's going on?
Well, it is Israel, so my guess is the Shabak. You know, they've got their hand on things. I mean, I got the Tor browser installed, so I can get around any kind of ISP problems without having a second internet connection. But I mean, it was just kind of. Yeah. It was you know, imagine my feeling when the nice customer service lady says, "Well, there are some websites that you just shouldn't be visiting." I'm like, really? Like what?
Making that decision for you.
Wow.
Yes, thank you.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I don't think we've run into that here yet. You know, they'd rather just collect all of the data and let us go to those sites and then potentially probably use that against you in the future.
Yeah, America is different. It's all about the masks, right? Like, oh, you're not going to tell me to wear a mask in public, where all of the Asians are going, you guys serious with that? Like, just it doesn't matter if it's law or not law or freedom or not freedom. You put it on because it's healthy. Like, yeah, you're gonna tell me you're not gonna tell me not to brush my teeth next. Like, well, your choice.
The data tells the story. There was a moment in time where, and we were shocked. It's like, hey, everything's reopening, like out of the blue, and it was like way too soon. All you have to do is look at the charts right now. It tells that story. And had
Tesla?
we remained, it looks like Tesla's chart. Correct. Yeah, pretty much. Actually, Tesla and COVID's chart is
Tesla COVID correlation.
We should, yeah. I mean, it's not the stock market. The stock market crypto correlation is now an old topic. Now we should be looking at Tesla crypto.
Yes, coronavirus.
I like that.
Coronavirus. Yes.
Huh. Interesting.
That's a good idea.
So Machi, what are your thoughts on crypto right now? What are you looking at? What are you paying attention to?
So everything, as far as I see, everything is crazy right now. I mean, like super crazy. I've never seen a market like this before, right? Yeah. I mean, what happened with Hertz? So first of all, what happened with crude oil? That should never happen. Prices should not ever go negative. Okay. What happened with Tesla is just completely unreal. But Hertz, like, there isn't any real logic behind it. What you realize is that social media sentiment has come all of a sudden to trump everything that we know about evaluation and how markets work. So this is basically, I don't know if it's has to do with all of the money printing and everything like that. I mean, I'm certain that a lot of that money in the stimulus finds its way into the markets and everything like that. And we have been seeing inflation in asset prices over the last 10 years while the central banks have been pumping more and more money, and now they've gone crazy. So, but it like, that seems like all of what's happening right now is actually just a precursor to all of that liquidity hitting the market. I don't think that the liquidity has even fully touched the market yet. It's just the people getting so excited about that liquidity that's coming and getting completely overzealous. And we can see it in Dogecoin, right? I mean, Dogecoin was like 150% in 3 days or something from trough to peak. And, you know, that was basically a pump and dump that's happening on TikTok, right? It's insane. But what it tells us is that the average person, you know, sitting at their home right now under coronavirus or in a different situation is now thinking about the markets. They're now thinking about, how do I make money? How do I make a lot of money with little money, right? People are thinking about like, okay, how do I turn $25 into $10,000, which was one of the examples used in Dogecoin. If Dogecoin hits $1, you're gonna make $10,000 off $25. So, and they're jumping head first into it without understanding how really markets work. And I think that that's where Tesla comes from. And people use these blanket statements and these blanket, you know, logical formulas, and like as if they've learned one sentence about financial markets and they suddenly are experts. And then that one sentence, you know, through the power of Twitter or TikTok or Reddit, can then go viral, and everybody jumps on that same investment idea, whether the investment idea is good or not. Tesla is the next Amazon. Amazon was once a bookstore, and now look where it's grown. Tesla is going to completely reinvent all of transportation and all of the way that we interact with energy and power. Well, yes, Elon Musk might do that, but you might not extract that value by holding Tesla shares. You know, Elon Musk could just as easily open a new company where, you know, he deals with revolutionizing the power industry, right? Or you know, Nikola company that just pops up and has never produced a single vehicle, and is already worth more than Ford, which is producing many vehicles. So we get to this situation where basically everything is going crazy. And I think that it's really a reflection of what's happening in society right now. Everybody's going, for lack of a better term, people are going crazy. And we're just starting to see that in the financial markets.
I think it's funny because both Joe and I, we worked in automotive for years, about 5 years. We were working with Hyundai, Genesis, Kia, and other brands. And like, what was fascinating was I feel like 4 or 5 years ago, we were saying this about Tesla, and that general perspective was, yeah, whatever, but they're a niche brand. They're too expensive. There's all these issues. You can't even go on road trips. The cars are going to break down. That battery, when that thing goes, forget about it. Every story you could possibly come up with was drummed up to squash the potential, right? Yeah. And you know, everyone was basically downplaying it. And before you know it, Tesla has a network built. They're about to launch a 1,000,000-mile battery. There's when was the last time you bought a car where there's over-the-air updates where the car continually improves and doesn't just age? You know, and the self-driving gets better and better and better until it replaces you. Like those same people that were laughing at Tesla are literally right now still in business, still in denial, because Tesla doesn't pay their paycheck. And it's fascinating to watch all of this play out, because like you said, it's not just a car company, but the car companies are still even denying it. The power companies are like, yeah, whatever, you'll still pay your power bill. No, you won't. You're going to be off the grid. You're going to have peer-to-peer energy sharing. You're going to have so many things that haven't launched yet.
I can easily imagine a world where that happens. But the question here, and this is more of a fundamental question, is where does that value go to?
Yeah, right.
The value that people are taking, they are taking $100 and investing it in a fraction of a share of Tesla. That money goes to Elon Musk, yes, most of it, some other of Tesla shareholders. It creates a bubble in the Tesla stocks, the Tesla share itself, which obviously the share at the current value is not worth that. So you're speculating that one day the company called Tesla is going to fit that value, that lofty value that you've given it. But the fundamental question is, once those innovations happen, do they happen in the company called Tesla? Or are they spun off to a different company? Or are there other competitors that come in and say, okay, this is a good idea, we should do this too? Or because they're the first to market, do you feel that they're going to be the only ones in this space?
Right.
And there are so many other ways that this future that you're talking about might happen, which again, it is a might, and I think it's possible. It is quite a possible scenario, but there are many others. There are many other factors along the way that not necessarily would hinder this future, but might not give you the. Let's take XRP for example. I mean, I think this is the exact example that played out in 2017, where I had clients coming to me, banging down my door, trying to buy these XRP tokens, and saying Ripple is going to change the way that banks send their money. Well, they might, right? Swift might upgrade their system to be more user friendly and more efficient. They might. Other companies might come in, or fiat might collapse. Who knows? Ripple might innovate, but even if they do, what does the XRP token give you? At the moment,
you're paying for future value. You're paying for the future, almost in some cases, a more than perfect future. You're paying for,
it's not even that. It's not even that. It's what does the token entitle you to?
Right. Yeah.
In the case of XRP, nothing, because Ripple has built out another suite, right?
Yeah.
That they're offering to clients that doesn't use the XRP token.
They've separated the two.
At all. They've basically put a wall, said, okay, XRP is not a security. Ripple right? They did this after the 2017 wave, and they've come and basically took all of that money that those investors put it in their pockets, right? And they built out the suite that they were talking about, and the investors got nothing, right? And who's to say that Elon Musk won't do the same thing? Why wouldn't he?
Right.
Why would he not, come in and say, okay, here we go. This is the new company. This is the cars, and here is the power company, right? And you're gonna, not pay your power bill anymore because you've got solar panels on the roof. Great future. Very, what's the opposite of dystopian? Utopian. Amazing, but the Tesla shares are still worth, what they are right now, or what they should be worth right now.
They did roll the Solar City into Tesla. Like that helps them a little bit. But I agree with you. It's like kind of what we were saying before we got on with like Starlink. It's like Starlink is with SpaceX. And I think that if Tesla somehow was providing internet to the entire world, which it's not even them, it's Starlink, it's like I could see that being multi-trillion. But that's not it, and just because, I think it's people haven't built the value or understood the value of a Tesla being able to go 250,000 miles, right? Like there's a company local here in LA, I think it's called Karmic, and they were part of like Tesloop, and they've got some Teslas that have gone like 400,000 miles and they haven't needed some maintenance. And it's like, man, how many Honda Accords like are you going to have to buy?
No, that's amazing. But the other question is production, right? I mean, you have to produce those cars, and how many can they produce reasonably? Like they could build another factory, they can, replicate their success as far as, but then you start getting into problems like, is there enough cobalt in the world to make the batteries that we need, right? Or can we get enough lithium? Right.
Well, but that's the big announcement that's coming in September, where a lot of these new batteries that they're going to be coming out with use less material, and as they degrade, they can be recycled into new products. And so that's the key.
Okay,
that's
but you see where I'm getting at here.
Sure.
That there can be constraints. I mean, just because they have made this car doesn't mean that like you're making a plethora of assumptions when you're trying to put that value on these shares. That's not to say that the bubble can continue. The bubble can always continue. When you're in a bubble, you never know when it's about to pop or keep growing. And when it pops, it might come back to a value that is 10 times what it is right now. Might.
Yeah. I just had to look up
what's the number, Monty? You already told me the number. What's the number?
I don't remember. Was it 2,759? 2,759 is my call on Tesla. Obviously not financial or trading advice whatsoever. It's just a random guess that I pulled out of my ass before we went live streaming.
Is that a $500 billion
but it might come down
market cap?
I think that's going to be the top of Tesla, but who knows when and where.
Right.
And we'll see.
Man.
We'll see. I mean, I wish them the best, and I hope that they do. But like, come on, and it's not just Tesla. I mean, and then that Tesla is ruling the market right now. I mean, when Tesla reversed their gains yesterday, I mean that was massive. The whole market took a whole. I felt watching that Tesla reversing a 16% gain in a day. I almost felt like I did when Brazil lost the World Cup to Germany. I don't know if you remember that, you Americans.
Yeah. Yes.
You remember that? They lost Neymar Jr. in the final, and then Germany squashed them 7-0, or I don't remember the final score. It was just a ridiculous defeat. But I felt like that was like the whole market was going, no. Yeah, and
we have nothing left.
Like, how could Tesla not be up 16% anymore? Yeah.
It feels that way. You know what's funny? Yesterday and today, we were seeing the same comments on social about Chainlink. Back to that.
Yeah.
Like people are like people acting like, what do you mean it's not going straight up today? It's supposed to. Why is it not rising? It was supposed to go up today. Like we've seen it with Tezos, Chainlink, both of them. Like there's a lot of that narrative.
Up 20%. I don't get it.
I don't. This is ridiculous.
It does not compute.
With what you're talking about too, it's like the entire market. It's like between Apple and Google, and like the FANG stocks. It's like, that's like 30 to 40% of the trading volume, 40% of the market cap of the S&P. I mean, it's getting silly. And I remember when people used to give shit to Bitcoin. It's like, oh, Bitcoin's 60% of that market. Everything else is nothing. Like it's nothing. It's like, and this is like what people were calling fantasy magic dust money. And it's like, yeah, your entire economy now is built off like 4 stocks and it's taken up 40%. It's like, it's the same thing. It's like, well, it just means that this is where the money is shifting in the COVID world to these Apples. And you'd think it would be more like consumer staple type places that would be doing better, but it's like, no, I still want growth. And here's how I go find it. And it's like, it's just completely changed the way people invest.
I have two questions here. Okay, so first is, which companies are people not, or projects in crypto, or in general, which investment opportunities right now are not being realized by the market and have not been completely overinflated? And I'm sure they're out there, because I'm sure that there's something that in 20 years from now, we're going to go, why didn't I fucking see that? I saw it crossing my feed, and why didn't I jump on that? There's going to be something that's going to happen in 20 years from now, and you're just like, well, wait a second, I saw it. Why didn't I just pour a whole bunch of money in it, right? There always is. And then the second question is, how many more wire cards are out there? How many more companies are out there that have multi-billion-dollar valuations, or Volkswagen, right? Or, and they just don't deserve it at all. Like they're just like freaking house of cards that is about to completely collapse because they've been doing something funny on the back end. I have a feeling that the answer is probably higher than most people think.
Yeah. I've got a couple answers on both of those, but Like one thing that, I mean, we're headquartered here in the US, and we've seen our traffic, for example, when we launched 15 months ago, our traffic was like 70% from the US. And we just looked at our monthly data yesterday, and now it's down to 29, but it's down to 29% of our global traffic is now from the US.
Okay.
But that base number is up still 50 times what it was a year ago. So we're growing like crazy. But
nice.
When we look at certain areas in the world that are accessing even our own site, there's places that we didn't see a lot of a year ago that we see now, like namely India, for example. Just to call India out, like India was probably the 100 and some odd like most popular user of LunarCRUSH a year ago or something. Now it's like number 3 or 4. We also see that places like Amsterdam, the Netherlands, are just super hot, consistently interested in crypto, and Singapore, and places like Liechtenstein are interesting. Yeah. And like when I look at our own data, one of the things that comes to mind is that a lot of these places are starting to be friendly to crypto. The US is incredibly unfriendly to crypto.
Correct.
You know, like
for now.
For now, and they're sending tax notices out. Well, it's ambiguous, and that's the challenge. It's like it's hard to operate here and know what to do right, and you might do it all right and still get called out later on. Yeah. But when we look at these places in the world, one place that sticks out to me is Singapore. And when I look at the projects that seem to have a big presence in Singapore, I look at those and I think those are pretty undervalued because they've got a lot, and I use them just as an example, and I was the only one. But when I look at places that are really trying to push crypto and have solid regulation around it, guardrails at least, I think those are the places to watch. And not to say that innovation can't come from the US, but you know, like I hats off to companies like Coinbase for being able to go public. I have a hard time believing that going forward in such a centralized manner is the road forward for all of crypto. And so for me, I just look at the places in the world that advocate for crypto that have, solid rules. I think those are the kinds of things.
Give us some names, John. Don't dance. Don't beat around the bush. Give us the names.
Give us a sector.
Well, when I look at projects like VeChain,
decentralized. What are you talking about?
So I'll call out a project like VeChain. So VeChain's moving. VeChain's moving. VeChain has a lot going on.
What's the ticker?
VET.
Yeah.
So VeChain's an interesting one.
A lot of people tagging VET on my feed. I didn't actually know what it was.
So one of the things, how I'm looking at them is more like. Some of the people that are super bullish on this are saying it's going to flip Ethereum and things like that. But I don't look at it that way. I look at it as it's more about like these guys are working with like Walmart, for example, and looking more supply chain management. I think they were doing something around COVID with tracking masks and things like that. So really interesting use cases that they're working on. Something to do some more research on, but they're jamming, they're moving. The other one, and we were talking to some of their team last week on our last live chat, is Zelica. Another really interesting project. They got a big presence out of Singapore. I don't know the number of team that they have, but I look at all of these like startups versus Bitcoin. I view it as like a base layer in a sense. And these are successful startups that happen to be in crypto and in the blockchain space that are focused on real world use cases. And they actually have really solid balance, I would say, where they're balancing social and marketing and product and development and technology. It's not just a room full of brilliant engineers. They actually know how to execute as a solid, fast-growing company would, and that's what we keep seeing, and we see their social activity constantly going up. So those are good examples. On the flip side, I might get.
I've just added both of them to my watch list here on TradingView. So
There you go.
So your second question, and I want to hear Joe's perspective on all this too. I'm not going to call out specific entities on this one. You asked, the second question was like, what's overvalued? What's something to be careful of? I think crypto exchanges. I think a lot of crypto exchanges.
The exchange tokens?
It partially, but a lot of these are just a black box of, like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know where they are. I don't know who's running them. I don't know how my coins are stored. I don't know what they're doing for security. You look at a lot of their sites, it reminds me of, and we look at a lot of exchanges. They look like old media sites with banner ads and jumping colors and token giveaways all over the place. And I think there's very, very few exchanges that have what we would consider a really amazing user experience. And it seems to me like the whole concept of a centralized exchange, like, again, some of them are executing great. Some of the larger exchanges that everyone uses, like, they focus on UX, they focus on every aspect that they need to.
What they focus on is what Robinhood and the rest of these and E-Trade are focused on, which is gamification of finance. And I've been calling out BitMEX and Binance, for their high leverage practices, and people just they're factories for people to lose money. And it's unfortunate. I mean, I like the guys at Wobi; they're really cool people, but they came to me and like we were talking about a potential partnership, and I'm like, yeah, I can't really do that. I have a license. Like, honestly, I'd love to. You guys seem like great people, but these are extremely high leverage products, which generally speaking, anything that's over 30 times leverage in crypto is super excessive. And then, they're talking about leverage of 100x plus, like 125 times leverage. You know what that means? That means you're going to lose your money, like without even a question. You're going to get liquidated within 5 minutes at that, or less.
I'd love to see the average. I'd love to see an average profile of a person that is trading at 125x leverage.
Okay,
I think I saw some of those
when
people
I got into
the Win casino last week.
Well, you don't want to vilify them too much, because they're playing a game that's been played by traditional finance for a very long time. When I got into trading, I remember the number was very clear. It was something like between 0.5% and 2% of all people who come into the Forex market lose their money. So this isn't something that's new that Binance invented. I mean, they're continuing the game, right, into a new territory, let's say, and opening up to new people. But online Forex trading, it was basically the same thing.
Right.
So it's just, I think that you might be right there, but the question is, are they doing it correctly? I mean, as far as the value of the company, so I'm looking for the investment opportunity, right? I don't want to go short on Binance token, because they're going to continue to burn them, right? And they're going to continue to use them as a discount for the trading fees. They're going to continue to use them within Binance chain. Right. So I don't see any investment opportunity in shorting Binance token unless we have a feeling that some competitor is going to come in and do everything better than them, take their market share away, and completely beat them out. And I wouldn't want to bet against CZ like that. I don't think that. I think that he's ruthless for all of his, for his beautiful mannerisms, and he just seems like a really, really nice guy that you want to come up to him and give him a hug. But he's not going to give up on that market share so easily.
No, I agree, and I think exchanges like Binance, I mean, it's hard to find anyone that's executed more rapidly and better than they have, right? But for every Binance, there's like 100 that we don't even know the names of, that are out there, and whether it's fake volume, wash trading, a terrible UX, or just two people in a room that just wanted to launch an exchange because they could, and there's no one stopping them. Like, there's so much of that, and some of them have tokens, and some of them are, not really the best places to trade. So that's always on my mind. Just like exchanges.
But John, you got to realize then the liquidity aspect, right? Because you need to, like, if you're going to go heavy short. So first of all, where can you short them? I mean, it's always a question. And just because they have a token, where are you going to go to their own exchange to short it? Like,
this is why I think when we talk investment. So investment opportunities here, to call out a couple, Kyber Network and 0x. When we're talking about those, they're more involved in they work on DEXs, and they have liquidity pools it basically creates liquidity across more than just one exchange. So what they're working on, and I know like I think Total is using Kyber. I think they're using 0x as well. I think they use lots of these things, but that's an interesting space because liquidity, man, you go to trade some of these coins that are below the top 10. You're talking about multiple trades. You're moving the market. Like, it's like you're moving things as you're trading, and you can trade in very small blocks. Or you watch the price start moving. So as those grow, that gets real interesting. If they have a huge
are they based in Singapore too?
I know that 0x is actually, they have an office right by Coinbase in San Francisco, which I find interesting. But I'm not sure where all their spaces are. I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah, Joe, what are your thoughts on Mahdi's questions here?
I mean, 20 years out is such a tough. I mean, I think an industry that's kind of getting, disrupted and rethought about right now is media. I think it's like when we come out of the back end potentially of some of this COVID stuff, and people are out there looking at content, it's like, it's a crazy world where we live in, where it's like you can talk to two different people and their opinion on whether it's COVID or politics or something is literally a polar opposite. It's not even, in the middle, kind of. It's like, it's just America.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm trying not to watch any media here in the US, and it's like, but it's like when you look at some of our large networks, it's like each night maybe they get 4 or 5 million people, under 10 million total. I mean, there's 335 million people in the US, and you got to think at least 200 million are the age of which they can work and learn. And so I think there's going to be some sort of disruption in that like we don't even know. And I mean, maybe micropayments has something to do with that. I mean, maybe it's paying for stuff. Maybe social media gets disrupted. I mean, as big as Facebook is, at least here in the US, you got to think a lot of the people who, are kind of, maybe you can call them the old school, like movers and the shakers, the people that are involved in a lot of the tech scene. I don't see a lot of those people using Facebook in specific. I mean, they're probably using some of the other channels that Facebook is on, like a WhatsApp or Instagram, which, and then maybe some VR stuff. But it's like, I feel like there's going to be some sort of disruption there where these really big companies that have so much audience, whether it comes from some of the boycotts or I don't know what, or maybe an individual has the ability to monetize like so easily and so quickly from brands, like that stuff gets built out. So I see that stuff.
Interesting one.
Yeah, that I kind of think about.
Facebook. I don't use Facebook. I logged into Facebook today for the first time in 2 weeks, and I found out that I had 3 people trying to talk to me on Facebook Messenger, and I was like, "Oh, sorry. Here's my Telegram."
Like, and you're not the only one, and that's why when a lot of American advertisers pulled out, Facebook was probably like, I don't know the mix of their the income that comes from just US based advertisers versus abroad, but I would have to think it's much more from abroad based on the attention that they have.
So here's a few funny things about that boycott, because I followed that story. I covered that story quite closely. So first of all, they're boycotting at a very convenient time for themselves when they're not really spending that much on social media advertising anyway. So it's not that big of a deal to say, okay, we're spending a few grand to just cut it completely. Second of all, they did not delete their pages on Facebook. Those are still, boycott means we're gone, delete, right? Like Tesla did. No more Facebook. We don't need it, right? That's a boycott. So they're calling it a boycott when it's not really. They're just cutting their advertising budget for a bit. The second thing, and a bit more deeply disturbing, was that many of the companies leading that boycott are really an example of, for lack of a better phrase, the pot calling the kettle black.
I remember your post here. I remember your
companies like Hershey's and Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola, who've been specifically targeting Black communities with their sugary snacks and serving diabetes to the Black communities, are now suddenly altruistic. I'm flabbergasted. Like, now you're going to make this statement that you care about Black Lives Matter. I mean, do they really matter, Coca-Cola? Do they? Tell me. Because if they do, then maybe you should figure out how to give them drinks that don't kill them, honestly. So this was just, it was just like, for me, like, kind of just showed how American corporations can get so out of whack. But
yeah, when people are diving in on that, really understanding it.
As far as Facebook is concerned, I do think that you might be right here. And people keep saying that, but Facebook has bought Instagram and they bought WhatsApp and they'll be able to buy the next one that comes out. Well, they might. I don't use Instagram. I have, by the way, this might be a good time to tell people there's a scammer impersonating me on Instagram, and he's already stolen an entire coin from one of my former clients.
Wow.
So yeah, watch out for that. But
a lot of scammers.
Wow.
Yeah,
I thought we saw the LunarCRUSH scammer the other day, but really it was just John's son creating a really epic YouTube channel about LunarCRUSH.
Yeah, my kids are like esports like superstars.
Nice.
They get more engagement on their social than LunarCRUSH does. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I walk into my son's room and he's like, yeah, bro, just slam that subscribe button. Just hit the subscribe button. That's all we want to do today. Like, he's like 13.
Slam it.
Like, just like,
smash the like.
But of course, I walk into his room. He's like, get out. I'm live streaming. I'm out here live streaming. Yeah.
So what's after social media? What's after
life after social?
What happens next? I mean, we like, the internet is continued to evolve here, right? And we've gotten to the point where everybody can see everything that other people are doing in a very user-friendly way, and people can share ideas and share thoughts and share experiences. Are we going to what's the next? Is it augmented reality, virtual reality? I mean,
I think it's going to have, whatever it is, it should have something where people, and I was kind of thinking about this today, where you can actually have like a real rebuttal. It's like someplace on like Twitter where it's like you shout something out and you're kind of, you could virtue signal and you're saying this thing, and then people kind of shout back at you. And yeah, you can reply, but you can't actually have like a true discourse. You can't actually, like, I would love with Twitter if it's like, if these two people are fighting, it's like you could just hold them down and swipe them into, like, lack of a better term, like a little battle or like a debate. And they can, and people can actually
put them in an arena.
Yeah, and people can actually
vote
like
on
listen. And then it's like, if you're actually good at debating, you have these, these ideas, then you can actually maybe, change someone's mind. And that's like what I wanted to send out earlier was like, has your mind ever been changed from something that you read from a random person on Twitter? If the answer is yes, then like, I think that's awesome. But I think a lot of people are out there just like, so your mind is actually, you're like, if you read something, you're changing your mind because of some random person.
So let me put a context in a specific situation on this for you, right? Those people, I don't know where they were from, but where the protesters came to their house and they came out on their lawn with guns.
Yes. St. Louis, Missouri.
That has been so polarizing, where so many people have extremely passionate feelings on both sides. And I feel like if we could get all of the facts. So Netflix did a series a while back, which I only ever saw half an episode of because it wasn't a great series, but the concept was great, which was trial by media. And they were covering, stuff that happened in the 90s or whatever, the O.J. Simpson trial or whatever, where the media was actually influencing the outcome of the trial and how it played out. And now we have trial by social media, right? Where everybody's, getting on these guys' cases, right? And everybody's thinks that they have all of the facts and that they can make an unbiased decision. And then we have, we can have people who are retweeting, and, obviously the influencers have a little bit more judgment and power, so to speak, in that. But what you're saying is interesting. We could put one centralized place, right, where we have kind of a stadium where people are going at it. We can have all of the facts from both sides presented in a very neat and clean fashion. I think that would be something truly special, because then we could take that trial by social media and trial by media and actually make it happen better and more efficiently than a court of law.
The challenge is who define fact, and this is where Trump comes in. This is where you say what you want, because no one can actually say what the facts are, and whose job is it to define that it's a fact or not. And
that is such an excellent point.
And this becomes the problem, and this is what Twitter's been facing. This is what Facebook's been facing. Like they have even on Instagram you see it, but they have kind of notifications saying this has been reported as suspicious content or whatever. But then you got to go back and go, well, whose job is that? Where did they get that info from? And sometimes it's cloudy.
It was exactly the post I wrote when I was exactly my thought. I said, this is good. This is good that you're fact checking. But when you click the link, it actually takes you to a post that Twitter wrote. Wait a second. Is Twitter going to start fact checking and write posts on everything that I write? Right. I'm just going to start writing random stuff and let them fact check me, right? Or are they going to do it for the president, for everything that he writes, and they're going to have a whole team? But why should it be Twitter's job to decide what the truth is, right? There should be some kind of third party who is unbiased and neutral, who can give what facts are. So
yes, and this I think, like when you talk about like the evolution of social, you move to almost the world being many different DAOs, almost like decentralized organizations, where it's a challenge, because it almost makes everyone more polar. You're going to be friends and believe the people that are just like you. And everyone else, I'm not like them, screw them, I'm over here. And we become even further and further apart. So that's kind of scary. But
we see that with Bitcoin maximalism, right, where they create their own echo chambers, and they've come to the point where I've been blocked by dozens of Bitcoin maximalists just for saying that altcoins have a place in the world. Like, how dare you blaspheme about blockchain? You know what I'm saying? So we see that type of echo chamber. But coming back to this point about what is true facts. I mean, a court of law doesn't know what the true facts are. They don't. At the end of the day, the judge has to make a decision, and the jury has to make a decision, not knowing whether they're going to, and in many cases, I'm sure throughout history, the jury kicks themselves for the rest of their life. Maybe they made the wrong decision, because you don't always know the facts, and facts are in the eye, very much in the eye of the beholder. But the question is can we bring that situation to a light using technology better than we can in that in that setting, or that very old school setting of a courtroom with a single judge and a gavel, or even a decentralized jury of your peers of 12 people, by using the power of the internet and many people that are interested in this case.
When you found that there was a fake Mati on, I think you said Instagram, you probably reported it, I assume, right?
I did. I reported, and I told everybody who came to me told me about him to report him. Yeah.
And how was that process? Was that detailed?
Did shit. They didn't.
Right.
Fuck all. Yeah.
Right.
Like you'd think that Instagram gets 5 reports, they're going to go, okay, let's suspend the account and figure out the truth. No.
But you gave the example of like a judge and a jury. That's at least transparent. You know who's making those decisions, right or wrong. There's a precedent ahead of it. I mean, it's a formalized system. Something goes on, like we have fake Facebook pages all the time. Every week there's a few new Facebook fake pages that steal our header, steal our logo, and then we find them. And they're totally fake. And they also always ask you to send them Bitcoin. It's great. And so we report those. 9 clicks later, nothing's done still. The page is still up. And like when you report it, it's this slow step-by-step thing. What is it? Is it spam? Is it a fake site? Is it like, and then it goes into the black box. You don't know
I'm an expert on it. Click.
Yeah, but, I mean,
uses replies function as spam.
If there's all these there's all these people on these social sites, we should be using those people to help validate, verify, use machine learning to actually recognize spam. At some point, this could become automated. There's no reason why Facebook's own machine learning could not identify a fake LunarCRUSH website. With 0 followers, and it steals our logo, and like there's like 50 signs that it's fake. It's 50. There's 1,000 signs that there's a fake Mati on Instagram, but they're not using that. Correct. This is a machine learning problem.
They're not looking for
Telegram's
it. They don't care.
Actually doing that now.
Telegram, it doesn't make them money to find it.
You'll see they have scam pages on Telegram now. They've gotten good at it, and they've gotten good because they know that people get added unsolicited. They're added to a group or whatnot, and they're starting to kind of figure that out faster. But I mean, kind of touching a little bit.
I still get 3 solicitations every day from bots on Telegram.
Oh yeah.
At least.
But it's like going back to that like corridor, that battlefield or whatnot of like people kind of debating. It's like giving people, and this is why I think people really like the podcasting, is like in the world that you're swiping through Instagram, you're thumbing through something so fast. We still have this kind of ulterior world where people are listening to 3-hour-long podcasts or going on a run and listening to an hour. And it's like the attention span is there for different types of content. And so it's like, we just need to figure out how to deliver that better. And it's like places like Twitter, where if you could get 2 people into a room and other people can listen to that, there's always kind of the thought around like, you can't tell someone how to feel. You don't have the same perspective on what happened to them and what this triggers or what this does, and emotions are insane. And the way that we feel about different things in our world are there's a spectrum. And so it's like pro-life versus pro-choice. It's like, well, are you fully pro-life or fully pro-choice? Are you, if someone goes out one night and does something they maybe regret and they take the morning after pill the next day, is that different than, an abortion a day before that child's supposed to be born? Like, yeah, I think it is. I think it's a huge difference. Yeah. But, everything's so binary, but it's like really figuring out where people are on this spectrum, and like Black Lives Matter is a good example of that. I mean, I think that there's different spectrums of these different groups that are out there, and like Democrat versus, Republican or conservative, and like everyone has a different idea and they're on different spectrums, but it's like helping people figure out where your ideas are. And even if someone disagrees with you, not completely saying like, I'm writing you off forever, I'm blocking you. I think it's a very specific thing if someone's getting blocked, like you're getting blocked from a Bitcoin maximalist because you're saying that altcoins matter. It's like, do you not want to hear what the other side is saying? You can't really defend your idea unless you purely understand what the other side is actually trying to tell you as well.
So here's the negative side of that, or the reverse side of that, and actually is what's happening. And we've found out in 2016 U.S. presidential elections, and the Brexit vote in the UK with the Cambridge Analytica revelations. All right, I mean, nefarious actors are out there right now, as we speak, trying to influence your decisions based on, they're not going to be able to sway you from one side to the other on abortion. That's not how they operate. They don't care what you think about abortion. They want to get you to vote or to buy something, right? Or to affect something that you might not have thought about or given some kind of huge thought, but they have thought a lot about. And then they'll kind of drip it into you through maybe paid advertisements through Facebook or bot accounts on Twitter. So, yeah, I think that if we don't innovate here quickly, there's a lot at stake.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about Twitter potentially creating kind of like a paid level, which is interesting. You know, it's kind of like with WhatsApp started, wasn't it like $1 for the first year, or was it $1? Then it was just like free. It's almost like Twitter does need to innovate, but it needs to also stay the same. It's almost like it's almost like a public utility at this point. And it's like it's given a voice to a lot of people that otherwise wouldn't have a voice. And if you are, you know, in your car and you're getting pulled over by a police officer and you think that you're going to be treated incorrectly, you know, turn that camera on and then you feel safe, you know, and it gives that level of safety that's there. And I think that's important, but it's also giving, you know, access, like you're saying, to a lot of nefarious people that are out there with, you know, five different levels of LLCs protected by an identity to know that they're really pushing some ridiculous agenda. And that's not good either. So it's like, how do you protect against that? Is it smaller groups? Is it things like Clubhouse and audio and like, or is it this, you know, people like fight these ideas out in the public forum? And I would just love if there was some way where people could listen to ideas and actually change their mind. And actually at the end of that conversation say, you know what, I didn't think of it that way because I didn't have that backstory. And now I'm thinking about it differently. It's like, I don't think that the social media today and the way you're flying through things is set up for that. So it's like somewhere between podcast and craziness on Twitter is this new idea that people feel like they're really learning and understanding people's sides. And it's almost like, I feel like politicians is where this should start. It's like, at least here in the US, like we haven't heard much from Joe Biden. You know, you've seen a couple of tweets. He hasn't really come out there and said anything. And it's like, well, man, what if he was like Gary Vee and every day there was like a 25 minutes of just him talking, just giving me advice or talking about stuff. Or like, I would love that. I would love to be like, hey, you're 70, whatever years old. Like, tell me about what you did in the 80s, the 70s,
Joe,
how the world is.
Joe, too optimistic his strategy is very clearly, because everything that he says or every position that he takes sides on, he's going to lose more voters than he gains. So he is being specifically silent on purpose. It's what Theresa May tried to do when she called the re-elections in the UK, and that backfired horribly because she had an opponent who was willing to stand up and say, but she's not even talking. Right. And that was kind of how Corbyn managed to steal her thunder. I mean, she like going into that election, she had such a huge advantage, right? And that's why she called the elections. And then so Joe Biden's in kind of a very similar situation here, where the less he campaigns, the better it's going to be for him, because he's banking on people voting anti-Trump. And that's his entire campaign right now. Which might work, it might not work. He'll certainly win California and New York. Doesn't need to try, but you know, if he's able to bag Texas and Florida, he might actually win this thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's really comes down to those two states, I believe, as far as the political map is concerned. But
also, just hearing you talk about this a little bit, it's also interesting to think about. And, you know, travel to places like Australia, or you travel around the world a little bit. It seems like a lot of people that do not live in the United States know equal to, or if not a little bit more, about the country politically and what's going on. Where if you live in the United States, you literally know nothing about any other. Like, you have to go deep dive down to Wikipedia rabbit holes to really start to understand. But it's like, is it like, I'm just kind of, is America like just on this stage? Is it like, is the rest of the world seem to follow? Or do you know, when you travel around, do you find in other places, like maybe in Europe, where there are countries that they don't give a shit about what's going on over here too? I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah, well, the thing about Americans is they don't really understand anything outside of America. They, like most of them, like most Americans, really haven't. It's not that they can't imagine it. They just haven't taken the time to. And in their mind, the rest of the world looks exactly like America does. Why is it like that? Because they are focused on what's in front of them at the moment and what their neighbor down the street thinks, and maybe what the guy in New York is saying, because he's speaking my language and he's broadcasting through the same channels that I'm listening to. But other than that, I mean, they haven't, like most of them don't have experience with talking to other people from around the world, whereas most of the rest of the world does. Most of the rest of the world has travel culture, much more than, outside of the country that I live in. And most of the world has international news, which focuses on different places, which America unfortunately does not really have. I mean, you have Fox and you have CNN, and then there's really nothing in between. So you have the right media and the left media. So, I mean, that kind of polarization, and the world knows this much better than the Americans who are living it. They see that, and that's why, what I was saying before about the masks, like they're watching America and going like, really, guys, this is how you're like fighting over what, honestly. And
I think there's a little spirit here in America where it's like, part of the country is just always going to be like, you are not going to tell me what to do. Like, no matter what it is, like, I will fight. If you told, like, the seatbelt thing, I'm sure there's still people that I'm not wearing that seatbelt. Like, I'm driving this car and doing this. It's like a little bit of like, like the West used to be the wild, wild West. Now it's just like, compared to the rest of the world, like we're just the wild, wild West, just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think that it's a bit of an unfortunate situation. I mean, I'm a libertarian, I mean, like at heart, I'm a libertarian, and I don't want to see, the government overreaching, but you're fighting on the wrong things there. You know what I'm saying? Like the seatbelt thing, like the government is there to save lives, and that's what they're doing. They're going to tell you to wear a helmet when you're riding your bicycle because they're looking at the numbers, and they're looking at, how many people are going to die because they don't, and then not only how many people are going to die, but how many people the government then needs to take care of. Right. So if somebody falls off their bicycle and smacks their head and becomes a vegetable, right, that's potentially worse for society. Then and that actually creates bigger government, because then you need to keep them on the government's dime. So the government is then getting bigger because people didn't wear their helmets. You know what I'm saying? So there's two sides of every kind of story here. So tell me what to do. Then you get to like Will Smith's world in iRobot, where the robot decides that, wait a second, humans are a danger, and everybody should be in lockdown all the time, because otherwise they might get sick or they might start fighting with each other. And obviously, as we can see from the last few months, that's not a good situation either. Nobody's getting sick, but we're also not earning a living at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's like, everyone uses the term like slippery slope, and it's like, well, if we start here, we're going to keep going and doing this other thing. And I think it was like a John Oliver episode where he talked a little bit about, well, if I give my kid a Twizzler, like, am I now suddenly is it a slippery slope? And next thing you know, I'm going to give him like a heroin needle. Like, no, you stop at the Twizzler. Like, I'm not going to give him the full thing of Twizzlers. Like, you stop somewhere, and, you back it up to like government. And it's like, there are pieces of the government that invest in infrastructure. And, most people don't even know all of what the Department of Energy does. And they think, we got to make this smaller. We don't know what it does. And it's like, well, what if they're keeping, they're trying to reduce our nuclear stockpile. And if they don't have the funding, one of those things is old and blows up, what happens? And there's all this risk.
Right.
that's involved with
Or what if
defunding.
they suddenly cut funding to the people who are in charge of making sure there's no pandemic?
Yes.
Or the schools,
real life
or
scenario for you there.
The schools, they're talking about not
Right.
giving any more money to schools, but yet telling them to open up. So, which means no money for extra cleaning, no more room for extra space between students that are already packed in classes. And it's funny because we're in Orange County here. LA has said that they're closing their schools in the fall. San Diego has said they're closing schools in the fall. Orange County, nope, we're opening. So that's the current stance. So makes no sense. But there's this mentality of, oh, well, kids don't get it. And people actually say things like, well, studies have shown that kids don't even get COVID. I've literally heard people say this. And then there's other people that are like, people have said that, and other people are saying, no way in hell am I putting my kids back in school. No way. So there's these polar sides of individuals that people are making up data for their own narrative. They want life to go back to the way it was when they used to make more money and they sent their kids to school all day. And it's very much a different world. And there's a huge piece of the society around here that doesn't want to live with it. They don't want to believe it. So it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, well, I think that there's also, I mean, the aspect of people, they can't afford not to. I mean, a lot of people, if their kids at home, then, they got to stay at home too, right? They can't just leave the kid at home by himself. Right. So as long as the school is closed, they can't go to work and they can't pay their bills. And that, that leads us to an entirely different problem. So I think in all things, we need to kind of find a balance. And
there was a story I read yesterday.
Yeah.
A story I read yesterday about there was a sad story. There was 3 teachers that they didn't have the proper space to teach their kids. So at home and everything. So the 3 teachers, they said, hey, you know what? Let's create one classroom that's really good at broadcasting. We'll have everything set up, cameras, everything's there. And those 3 teachers taught their kids from that class every day at specific times. And all the kids are at home and everything. All 3 teachers got COVID and 1 died yesterday. And so it's sad. God. It's terrible. It's terrible. On that same note, we're talking about just reopening schools. What happens when 1 kid gets it and they have to shut the entire school down for days, and then it happens again and they have to shut the entire school down for days? And hopefully no one gets, seriously hurt, but this is reality. This is what's happening now. And they're talking about opening schools. So it's I got 2 boys. It's hard. It's very, very difficult to like, for example, one of my kids, their soccer coach wants to start practicing. I have to make the decision to say, do I let them practice? Are they going to be at a distance? How do you play soccer at a distance? How do I keep my son away from his friends? Is that the right thing to do?
A lot of midfield shots. I think you're going to have just shoot it right over.
Yeah, is it just, are they 30 feet from the goal and they're just taking single shots one at a time, not touching each other? Like, what exactly are they going to do?
No. If you're sending them to soccer practice, you have to realize that they are going to be exposed. I mean, there isn't really. Look, Disneyland opened up. Disneyland said, "Fuck it, we're opening." They said very, very clearly. I mean, I did the math. They're losing more than $30 million a day that they're not open. So they're just saying, look, we have to adapt to a new normal because this isn't going away anytime soon, right? And in that sense, I mean, they can do what they can to, within that new normal, to socially distance, make sure all of the employees and make sure all of the visitors wear masks. Make sure that they sanitize the park every night before the people go home. Make sure that there's no bottlenecks and that people aren't crowding into lines for the rides. But more than that, I mean, you can't really, because they gotta open, right? They have to. I mean, look, think about how many people work at one of those parks. It's like the numbers are staggering, and if those people they don't get their paycheck, then they don't feed their family. They don't pay the rent. So
Right.
you kind of have to open
Yeah.
up, but at the same time, which is why there's no such thing as a V-shaped recovery in this new normal, until the virus goes away completely, which we hope it does, but I'm not terribly optimistic about that.
All right, guys. Well, hey, we've done an hour and 15 minutes. We said we were going to do 15, so we went slightly over. But this was super fun. For all you guys out there listening, we covered some coins, we covered some stocks, but we just hopped on just to kind of chat, and we're having a meeting, and maybe we'll do it again next week. You never know, or next month. We'll see.
This was our monthly advisory meeting, which just kind of ran wild. So been a pleasure, gents.
I'm gonna stay on another 6 hours and cover all 2,000 coins in our database.
You enjoy it. It's 2 a.m. here. I'm gonna go to bed.
Can we do lowest market cap? All right, that's perfect.
See ya.
See you guys.
Bye.